Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Lori. I wanted to do a video today about beginning to see the world and see humanity and every single human being on the earth plane from a different perspective, a higher perspective, starting to allow what I'm going to say today about all of us, all these beautiful human beings on the planet, what we're all doing and how to begin to step out of this really sort of tunnel vision view of duality and right and wrong, good and bad, and beginning to see humanity from a bigger perspective, from a more a consciousness that holds more of like a unity consciousness. And the reason I wanted to do this video is what I'm going to share today is a paradigm shifter, and it's a way of viewing the world, ourselves, humanity in a much bigger way. And it's challenging. It's very challenging. And so what I'm saying is going to be difficult to kind of consume and hold. But it's extremely important that we begin to look and view our world, view humanity, view everybody in our lives from this perspective as often as we can. You know, if you're in the spiritual community and listening to all of these new ideas and new beliefs, everybody talks about oneness and unity consciousness, unity, understanding that we're all one. And that's beautiful because it's starting to get us to think about these ideas and these concepts. But how do you actually do it? How do you actually begin to bring that into your awareness so that when you walk out into your day, you can hold those concepts and remind yourself over and over and over again? Because you have to remember, as a human being in a third dimensional world, in a dualistic society, a dualistic reality, we are programmed, very, very deeply programmed to believe that there is a right and a wrong, to believe that there is good and bad, to believe that there is dark and light, pros and cons, that kind of thing. We are programmed to believe that. And what is starting to happen very slowly as we shift and as we start to take bigger perspectives, what you're going to start to realize is there is no right and wrong. There is no good or bad. That in this playground of Earth, on a dualistic playground, good and bad is felt. Right and wrong is felt. But from a bigger perspective, it's all just experience. It's all just experiencing one thing or experiencing another thing. And that there is no judgment on it. There is no this side or that side, black and white. When you start to raise your consciousness and start to look at the world from a bigger perspective, you start to step away from the programming. You start to become very aware of how we are living in such a dualistic world that tells us that something is right or wrong, you know, and that's the challenge of what I'm about to share with you. That we deeply believe in things that are right and things that are wrong. There are rules we follow. There are laws we follow, right? So it's extremely challenging to start to step outside of that. But if you take tiny baby steps and just start to think about this concept as you're walking around in your day, it becomes easier and easier. And what this concept will do is it will allow you to release the judgments. It naturally happens. You start to release judgment. You start to release anger towards people. You start to release fears towards people. You start to release this fighting mode that humans are in. We want to protest and fight and make things right. We want to tell people what's right? That whole thing is shifting. Again, we can't move into this higher state of consciousness by continuing to do what we've been doing in the lower states of consciousness. So here it is. Okay. First and foremost, we are all spirits. Every single human being that has 2 feet, 1 foot, no feet, but is a human body standing, sitting, laying, participating on the earth plane, okay? Every single physical body has a spirit, a light in them. Okay? And so they're not actually, we know this, we're not actually our physical bodies. We are light, spirit, encased by this physical form so that we can experience this reality. Every single human being on the planet, I don't care where you came from, what you believe in, what language you speak, what your nationality, none of that matters. If you are in a human body, standing, laying, sitting on this earth plane, you have a spirit inside of you. So that's the first step. Step number 2. This is the law of how this earth experience works. If you are a spirit inside a physical form, you have chosen to come in. So this means that every single human body that's walking this earth plane right now has a spirit inside of them, and that spirit chose to be in a physical body. They chose to come down. They volunteered to come in. No spirit, no light, no source pushed them into this experience. And I'm not talking about a volunteer like a light worker. I'm talking about just volunteering to be a part of this journey, to be a part of Earth's experience, Earth's experiment. What is duality? Okay? So when you are walking around in your everyday life and you are watching quote unquote sleepwalkers, people that are just unaware of other realities that are happening, right? And you're just flabbergasted by behaviors and you can't believe what people are saying. Those are spirits. They are no different than you. No different than you. They have just chosen a completely different experience in their physical form. So what happens is, so when you understand this, that every physical body has a light, has a spirit, that every single spirit chose to come in, they volunteered to come in, then what you need to understand, that every single spirit contracted, wrote out their soul contract. Okay, a lot of this is called the Akashic Records. But each soul chose exactly what they were going to experience in every single lifetime they came in. So in this lifetime right now, as a spirit in a physical form, each human body, each spirit encased in this human physical form, wrote out exactly where they wanted to live, what region, what color their skin was going to be, if they were going to have a religion or not, what kind of family they were going to move into, what kind of experiences they were going to have, what did they want to experience. So you have to understand, as spirit, there's no right or wrong. There's no good or bad. It's all just an experience. This is what I want to feel. This is what I want to experience. And so when they come in, they choose to experience certain things. And it's challenging to understand or to think as a human in duality. Why would somebody want to choose to be a murderer? Why would somebody choose to be somebody that kills or hurts or harms? And that's challenging, and I have no answer for that other than to begin to step outside of the box of duality and begin to realize that spirits come in and decide what they want to experience. And there is no, when you're in that realm, when you're in that light, it's just experience. It's just what am I going to come down and be a part of? What do I want to feel in this dualistic reality? And so what happens to us is that when we're down here, we forget all of this. And when we're down here, we forget that we are in a dualistic world, which means that we see through our eyes duality. So we instantly think right or wrong. We instantly think good or bad. We instantly think positive, negative. We instantly think, where do I place this? What box do I place this in? It's extremely challenging to look out and watch people's behaviors and watch people's experiences and not do that. But that's what we're being asked to do. To have no judgment, to begin to watch these people do their life, as difficult as it is, and to remember that they are spirit in body. They wrote out their contract. They chose to do exactly what they're doing. And who am I to tell them, to tell that spirit, hey, by the way, what you chose to experience in this lifetime for you is wrong, is bad, is absurd, is stupid. That's judgment. That's duality. That's being a human being in a third dimensional form. But when you begin to step out into a higher state of consciousness, can you begin to see that human as a spirit that contracted and wrote out exactly what they wanted to experience? And they're doing it. They're fulfilling it. Many humans are uncomfortable feeling what they contracted to feel. Many people are, it may look like they're not happy, that they're in a lot of pain. And so this is challenging. This is not easy to hold on to, but you've got to start to hold tiny pieces of it. What it does is it takes away the victim mentality. Nobody's a victim. Nobody did anything to anybody else. Everything has always been contracted. That's how the law of the universe works. That's how the earth's consciousness works. When you come down, you don't become a victim. When you come down, you contract exactly what you want to experience, and you contract it with the exact spirits that are going to come in and participate with you and be that other participant with you. Very hard to grasp, very hard to understand. But if you allow it to kind of settle in and sit with you, it actually makes sense on a much higher level. And what you'll start to understand, what I started to feel as I'm going about my day, is I still get very frustrated with things that I see on TV. I still get very frustrated with people that are doing things that I would never do. But as I'm getting angry, as I'm getting frustrated, as I'm wanting to scream at somebody, okay, I begin to remember, stop, they're a spirit in a physical body that chose this experience. Who am I to tell them it's wrong? Who am I to say you did it the wrong way? Why would you choose to have this experience? Why would you contract to be that kind of person? Who am I? And what it will do, and what it has done for me, is it shifts me out of that judgment. I instantly shift out of the judgment and I see them for the spirit that they are. I see them for the light. I see them as a conscious being that chose that experience. And there's microcosmic ways of doing this, microcosm ways and macro. So on the micro scale, it's like I'll be in my yoga class and there'll be some annoying person on a mat 3 bodies down doing such annoying stuff, and it's bugging the crap out of me and I want to go slap their face. Okay? So I feel that, and at the same time I remember, well, that's that spirit in that body, and that is who they are. That is the personality that spirit came down into. That's the physical body that spirit came down into. They're just doing them. They are only doing what they know how to do the best that they can. And it's bugging the crap out of me, and that's okay. I will allow myself to be bugged, but at the same time, can I also remember that it's a spirit in a body that has chose that personality, that has come in to experience the earth in that way. There are millions of reasons why spirits come into the physical form, especially at this time, to experience this reality. There is so much to experience. There's so much to feel. There's so much to have in terms of emotions and all of that. And so beginning to understand, and then that's a micro level, the yoga girl, right, bugging me. On a macro level, it's watching some governmental official or somebody on the news, somebody really distant and far off doing something that is absolutely horrendous, okay? That in the core of your core, you can't possibly understand. You can't find it in you that that's a spirit choosing to go into a physical body and contracting that. And can you begin to open to that? Can you begin to step outside of the duality? Can you begin to step outside of your judgments? Can you begin to step outside of right and wrong, good and bad? Okay? And start to understand and see that's a spirit just like me. What do you think it means when all of these quote unquote spiritual people, spiritual teachers, okay, talk about we're all one? I love when people say that because nobody quite gets it. We're all one. Well, if we were all one, first of all, we all are one. But if everybody understood what that meant and lived that way, that we really are all one, there'd be no judgment. You'd be able to look at the nasty neighbor that you have and have no judgment, no reflection, nothing. No response, just seeing that being as the being that it is. That's oneness, that's unity. But 99.9% of us can't do that. We can't. There's certain levels that you can be at, right? So you can watch certain people that aren't that triggering, and you can say, yeah, I can see that. That's a spirit in a body and they're doing their thing. And then you level up to something that's a little bit more challenging for you. And it's like, oh, I can kind of see that. I can kind of see that spirit in there. But you level up to a level where you just, it's against everything you believe in, everything that you know to be right or wrong. And that's where it becomes challenging. So there's these levels, right, that you can, that's comfortable, that's a little bit more uncomfortable, that I can't get to yet. Okay, but we're learning how to do this. We have to. It's how you reach higher states of consciousness. You don't move to this quote unquote new earth everyone's talking about, bypassing this reality, this understanding that we live in a dualistic world where we are programmed to think things are right or wrong. When Jesus walked the planet, he didn't have there was no right or wrong. It just was. Everybody was just doing their thing. So when somebody would come and they were a murderer or they were a rapist or they stole, he served them just as if it was a person that was coming down the street with a family, with a family of 4 and needed to just, receive healing from him or whatever he did. Okay. He didn't turn away anyone. No one. Why? Because he saw them as the light of who he is, which means that he knew that he was a spirit coming down into a physical form to play out his role. And he saw that the person sitting directly across from him, regardless of what they have done in that lifetime, he saw them as the light that they are in that physical form, playing out what they chose to play out. Many, many highly evolved, highly masters, the masters that walked the earth, the enlightened beings that walked the earth, they saw humanity this way. They understood. That's why they could serve all of humanity. That's why they could look at every single person and not have a judgment. They didn't think anything was right or wrong. It just was. And that can really cause a lot of angst within us because it's like, well, how do you not see this? There is an absolute right and an absolute wrong. And guess what? Above that, there is no right or wrong. When you start to step into a higher state of consciousness, when you start to elevate yourself up to a higher state of consciousness, you start to see this. You start to understand what Earth is. The experiment and experience that Earth is. When you're in a 3rd and 4th dimensional space, there's duality. When you shift into a 5th dimensional frequency, there is no duality. Okay? So all of the beings that live in a 3rd dimensional frequency and all the beings that live in a 4th dimensional frequency have duality. When you shift into that next level up, there's no duality. There is oneness, there is unity. When you start shifting back down, which is what happened with Atlantis and Lemuria, it started shifting down into that 4th dimensional space, then you start creating chaos. You start creating a structure that says yes, no, right, wrong, good, bad. Okay? And that's where we are. We're programmed. When we look out our eyes, we are programmed to put it into a box of yes or no, good or bad, positive, negative. And can you begin to step outside of it? It's really challenging, but I promise you, if you can just take little snippets of it, just tiny little snippets of it, just try to remind yourself throughout your day. Try to remind yourself throughout your weeks. Just try to remember that that person over there is a spirit just like you. And they chose to volunteer and be a part of this journey just like you. They chose the color of their skin just like you. They chose the type of physical body they would have just like you. They chose the experiences they would have just like you. They chose the personality they would have just like you. And they're living that out, whether you like it or agree with it or not. And who are you to tell that spirit in that physical form that how they're portraying their light, what they chose, what they contracted to do in this lifetime of theirs is wrong? They need to be doing it a different way. It'll shift the way you see things. It'll shift the way you experience things and experience people. It will literally stop judgment. It will literally open your heart. It will literally stop you in your tracks and bring you into a neutral zone. Because to say to love everyone, to say we are all one, to say there is this unity consciousness, that's great. It's all in the mind. It's great. We're all one. We all came from source. We all have the same light inside of us. You know, we're all divine. We have to learn to love everyone. It's bull crap. It's like, okay, that makes sense in the mind, you know, but how do you actually do it? It's extremely challenging to do that, right? This will help. This will help. This is very hard, but so is loving every single person on the planet. So is oneness. Understanding oneness is extremely hard. When you get down to the nuts and bolts of it, oneness is extremely challenging. Tell me that you believe that you're the same person as that guy over there that just murdered 6 people, right? It's hard, because if you can get into that space of oneness, that you're the same as him, then you understand who that spirit is. But most people can't do that. So the way you do it is you remember the laws of how this whole experience works. It's just the way it works. It's very simple. Physical body, spirit choosing to come in, spirit choosing everything that they're experiencing, and you remembering that. And remembering that we live in a dualistic world where when we look out our eyes, we instantly go right or wrong, good or bad, positive, negative, all based on how we were programmed, what we were taught, where in the world we grew up, the parents we had, the education we had, the color of our skin. All of that determines what we see to be right or wrong, and good and bad, positive, negative. So there isn't one, it's all very open in terms of how you interpret your reality. My right is not necessarily your right. My wrong is not necessarily your wrong. Another reason why it's like step outside of the box and begin to see every single being as a light that chose to come in, as a spirit, just like you. If you believe you came in as spirit and you chose it, so did every single human being on the planet. It's a big one to take in. Big one, because there are certain beliefs that you won't be able to allow to be okay. It's extremely challenging for me to be okay with people that abuse animals. It's a very big one for me. And so I'm okay with that being a challenging one for me. I'm okay with me having a hard time recognizing that that person chose that. Because I want to say, why would they choose that? That doesn't make any sense. Like, I don't understand that. And then understanding that that's a judgment, right? So it's just being okay with wherever you're at. Certain things you're going to be able to look at and see, oh yeah, that's spirit, that's a light, they chose that. And it's going to start with baby steps, right? With the person down the street, the person driving in front of you, the person behind you in line, right? All these annoying things that happen, you'll start there. And then it'll just get bigger and bigger and bigger. It's how we shift consciousness. It's how we shift our reality. It's how we start to remember who we are. It's how we start to remember what's going on. Taking that bigger perspective, and it will shift the way you engage and interact with people. Guarantee it. So, that's my spiel for today. I know it's going to trigger a lot of people, and there's a lot of people that it won't trigger. So again, like all my videos, just take what makes sense and throw out the rest. For those that this resonates with, begin to play with it. you know, play around with it. Force yourself to remember these words. Force yourself to remember this, you know, and then be totally okay, obviously, when you just want to be like, that's ridiculous. I can't do that with this person. That's okay. At least you're trying. Different way to look at things. And it's important. It's huge, 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 huge. We all chose to come into a physical body. We all volunteered to be here. And we all volunteered to play out the exact role we're playing out. Nobody came into a physical form not by choice. Nobody was forced into a physical body, and nobody was forced to play out a life that they didn't choose. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. And there's no more karma. So humans aren't clearing karma anymore. So if you haven't watched my video on karma, you can go back and watch the video on karma. We're starting to live like light beings. We're starting to we're starting to live like fifth dimensional beings. We're starting to remember. What do you think it was like on Lemuria? They didn't judge anyone. They didn't place a right or wrong on anybody's way of being. And it was a higher state of consciousness that they came down into. So there wasn't that duality to even play out. There wasn't a choice to play out negative, quote unquote, negative or dark stuff. It wasn't even an option when you volunteered at that time. When you volunteered on Lemuria and chose to create your path, your contract, your experience, there was no duality. So there wasn't a choice of something negative or dark or fearful or wrong, you know, murdering or raping or crazy crap like that. But there's plenty of that in the third dimensional space. And you have to start to kind of grasp this idea that spirits wanted to just experience these things. It's a really hard concept, but opening to it slowly. Anyways, I hope this was useful in some way. I hope you're able to go out into your day and just in small baby steps start to look at every single human as that light that chose to come in and volunteer. And it'll shift you. I promise you, it'll start to shift you. Anyways, with that, I'm going to say goodbye. And thank you again for watching this video. Thank you for subscribing to my channel. Thank you for being here. I love you all so much. Have a great rest of your day or evening or morning. Namaste.